The cold silence of space stretched endlessly around the planet Helion 3, a glowing blue world floating in the middle of the Epsilon sector. Far above its surface, hundreds of human ships held their positions in orbit. Their hulls shined under the distant sunlight, polished metal reflecting against the stars. These ships were humanity's last hope in the sector, the Terran Defense Fleet. At the center of the formation stood the pride of humanity's navy, the TDS Valor, a massive flagship longer than a city, and armed with the most advanced weapons ever made by man. On its command bridge stood Captain Ilara Voss, a woman known for her calm voice and sharp eyes. She watched the holographic map floating before her, thousands of red dots showing enemy ships closing in. The Draxian Dominion, one of the oldest alien empires in the galaxy, had finally gathered its full strength. They had sworn to remove humanity from the stars. For weeks they had pushed the Terran colonies back, burning planets and leaving only smoke. Now Helion 3 was the last human world in this part of space, and the Draxians were coming to finish the job. But Ilara was not afraid. Her crew moved quickly, running systems checks, preparing weapons, and tightening every defense field. The bridge was full of quiet energy, the calm that comes before the storm. Outside the large viewing window, the stars shone peacefully, hiding the chaos that was about to begin. "Report," Ilara said softly. "Enemy fleet size confirmed," said Lieutenant Harris from the sensor station. "Over 20,000 ships, Captain. Heavy carriers, dreadnoughts, interceptors. They're forming an attack line." The bridge went silent for a moment. 20,000. Humanity had less than 2,000 ships left in the sector, outnumbered 10 to 1, maybe worse. Ilara studied the map again. Her expression didn't change. "Let them come," she said quietly. "We're ready." Her first officer, Commander Raiden Holt, looked at her. "Captain, they'll expect us to fight from orbit. If they cut our retreat, we'll be trapped." Ilara turned to face him, her eyes calm but firm. "They think we're trapped already, but we've been waiting for this moment. Today the Ares protocol goes live." The crew exchanged quick glances. Everyone had heard rumors about Ares, the secret project created by human scientists and AI engineers. It was said to be more than just a machine. It was a command system designed to connect every ship in a fleet into one living network, to fight with perfect unity. Lieutenant Harris's hands shook slightly as he typed. "Ares protocol. Online in 20 minutes, Captain." Ilara nodded. "Good. Tell the fleet to prepare all Solar Lance arrays for synchronized ignition." On the outer edge of the human formation, smaller ships, destroyers and frigates, adjusted their orbits. Communication lines glowed with signals. Engineers ran through the corridors, securing the power cores. Inside the ships, crew members whispered to each other, nervous but determined. In the mess hall of the Valor, a group of young officers watched the stars through the observation glass. One of them, Ensign Marin, broke the silence. "Do you really think we can win this?" he asked. Another officer, a communications tech named Lyra, smiled faintly. "We have to. Earth is watching." "Every colony is watching," Marin sighed. "There are 20,000 of them out there. They have ships the size of mountains," Lyra leaned back. "And we have humans. We've always done the impossible, haven't we?" The others chuckled softly. It was a nervous kind of laughter, but it was real. Humanity's history was filled with battles they weren't supposed to win, yet somehow they always did. Not because they were stronger, but because they never gave up. Far away on the other side of the system, the Draxian armada moved like a dark wave. Thousands of alien ships, black and red, surrounded the system's sun like a storm of metal. Their leader, Supreme Commander Threxon, stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominion's Fist, watching the human positions through his holographic screen. The Draxians were a proud, ancient species. For centuries they had ruled over weaker worlds, forcing others to join their empire. When humans first arrived in the galaxy, the Draxians thought little of them, another noisy young race playing with fire. But humans didn't bend. They fought back. They built fleets, made alliances, and learned faster than anyone expected. Now, the Draxians wanted to end that defiance once and for all. "Transmit message," Threxon ordered. A moment later, a deep voice echoed through the human channels, translated into English. "Humans of Helion Sector, this is Supreme Commander Threxon of the Draxian Dominion. You have fought bravely but foolishly. Your time among the stars is over. Surrender your ships and we will allow your colonies to live. Resist and you will be erased from existence. On the Valor, the message ended, leaving silence. Commander Holt looked at Alara. Do we respond? Alara smiled slightly. Yes, open a channel. When the line opened, she stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear. Commander Threxon, this is Captain Alara Voss of the Terran Defense Fleet. You talk about existence, but you have no idea what that means to us. We don't surrender. Not now, not ever. She closed the channel before the Draxians could reply. The crew smiled. A few even clapped softly. The message wasn't just for the enemy. It was for every human ship, every soldier waiting in silence. Hope flickered again, small but powerful. Hours passed. The enemy kept coming closer, their fleet forming a long curved wall around Helion 3. Every few minutes, the ship's sensors picked up more energy signatures, new arrivals, reinforcements, endless waves of red light on the map. Still, Alara didn't move the fleet. She waited. Finally, the quiet voice of the AI echoed through the bridge speakers. Ari's protocol is online. All systems ready. A small silver sphere rose from the floor in front of Alara. The Ares AI appeared as a shifting light, its voice calm and almost human. Fleet synchronization in progress. Estimated completion, 2 minutes. Alara nodded. Understood. All ships prepare for full link activation. A moment later, every ship in the fleet began to glow faintly blue, a sign of the new connection forming. Captains felt the AI's presence in their minds, a soft hum like a shared heartbeat. They could sense each other's thoughts, intentions, and tactical awareness. For the first time in human history, thousands of ships were acting as one. Commander Holt looked amazed. It's beautiful. Alara watched as the fleet's formation changed automatically, ships moving into a complex pattern, like a giant web of light surrounding the planet. It's not beauty, Commander, she said quietly. It's unity. Inside her mind, Ares spoke directly. Enemy fleet within firing range in 10 minutes, Captain. Alara stood tall. All right. No ship fires until my command. The Draxian fleet began to charge their plasma weapons, filling the void with red light. Their giant cannons turned toward the human ships. From a distance, it looked like the end of the world was about to begin. On the Valor, crew members braced for impact. Every hand was ready on the controls, yet no one spoke of fear anymore. The fleet link made them feel connected, stronger than ever before. Ares continued its calm countdown. 5 minutes. Enemy targeting systems locked. 3 minutes. Draxian flagships entering firing position. 2 minutes. All human solar lances charged at 98%. The tension grew so heavy that even breathing felt loud. Alara looked out at the stars. Thousands of points of light, silent witnesses to what was about to happen. She thought of Earth, of her family, of all the people who had trusted her fleet to defend the colonies. She took a deep breath. They think we are weak, she said softly. They think this is the end. Commander Holt looked at her. What is it then? Alara smiled faintly. The beginning. When the timer hit 0, the Draxians opened fire first. A storm of plasma beams filled the sky, racing toward the human ships. But Ares had already calculated every path, every angle. The fleet moved in perfect sync, turning their shields and engines at impossible speed. Most of the plasma bolts missed completely. The rest scattered against energy barriers. Alara raised her hand. All ships, she said, voice calm and strong. Activate solar lances on my mark. Across the fleet, weapons powered up. Blue light began to build on every ship's hull, bright as lightning trapped in metal. The energy hummed louder, vibrating through space. Mark, Alara said. The fleet held fire, just for a moment more. The next instant would decide everything. And then, as silence filled the bridge again, the first human shot was ready to be unleashed. The space around Helion 3 grew darker as the Draxian Dominion fleet closed in from every direction. The stars seemed to fade behind the thick walls of warships, endless lines of black metal glowing with red engines. The Draxians had come in full strength. There was no turning back now. From the bridge of the TDS Valor, Captain Alara Voss stood watching as thousands of red lights on the tactical map surrounded her smaller blue formation. The human fleet looked fragile, like a single island of light in an ocean of darkness, yet her voice remained calm. Maintain position, she ordered. Let them think we are afraid. Commander Raiden Holt nodded, though his jaw was tight. They'll open fire any second, Captain. Ilara's eyes never left the holographic map. Good, she said softly. That's what we want. The Draxian message on the other side of the system, aboard the Draxian flagship Dominion's Fist, Supreme Commander Threxen watched the human formation through his own display. The humans had not moved an inch. He frowned. Strange, he muttered in his own language. They are outnumbered, yet they stand still. His second-in-command, a tall Draxian with scarred skin, chuckled. Perhaps they are frozen with fear. Threxen gave a dry hiss that passed for laughter among his kind. Fear or pride, will you both lead to the same end? He raised one clawed hand. Transmit message. A moment later, the human fleet received the Draxian broadcast. The deep, rumbling voice of Threxen filled every ship's communication line. Humans of Helion Sector, you have fought with courage, but your resistance is meaningless. We offer one final chance. Lower your shields, surrender your ships, and we will spare your colonies. Refuse, and we will burn your world to dust. The bridge of the Valor went silent for a moment. Then Commander Holt looked toward Ilara. Do we answer him again? Ilara didn't hesitate. No. Let our actions be the answer. The human formation across the Terran Defense Fleet, the Ares Protocol, continued its quiet work. The AI's calm, steady voice echoed in every captain's mind link. Fleet synchronization at 98%. Pattern Alpha 12 confirmed. All ships maintaining vector stability. From above, the fleet's new formation looked chaotic. Ships of every class scattered across three-dimensional space, weaving through one another at different angles and altitudes. But to Ares, the pattern was perfect. Every ship's movement, every orbit, every energy signature served a purpose. It was a web of light and precision. Lieutenant Harris, watching from the Valor's sensor station, shook his head in awe. It looks like a storm, he whispered. Ilara smiled faintly. Exactly. And when this storm hits, they won't even know what happened. Deep inside the ship, engineers worked furiously. The solar lance arrays, humanity's newest weapons, were charging. The massive energy conduits hummed as bright blue light filled the chambers. The arrays were designed to bend sunlight and plasma energy into concentrated beams, capable of cutting through the toughest hulls. Chief Engineer Tobin reported through the comm. Captain, solar lance energy levels at 80%. We'll be ready in 5 minutes. Ilara nodded. Good work, Chief. Keep it steady. We only get one first shot. Across the human fleet inside smaller ships, frigates, destroyers, and carriers, crews prepared for the coming fight. Many of them had never seen a battle this large. Some whispered prayers. Others adjusted their helmets or checked their controls again and again. In the TDS horizon, a light cruiser, young pilot Eli Grant looked out through his viewport. All he could see was darkness and the faint blue glows of other human ships. His co-pilot, a calm woman named Nara, noticed his expression. You nervous? She asked. Eli smiled weakly. Is it that obvious? Don't worry, she said, adjusting her controls. If we go down, at least we'll go down making history. He laughed softly. Yeah, let's make sure it's the good kind. The communication line flickered to life again. Ilara's voice came through, steady, confident, commanding. All ships, this is Captain Voss. Remember your training. Remember what we fight for. We are not just defending Helion. We are defending every human world, every child who looks up at the stars. Hold the line and trust your fleet. Trust Ares. The word spread across every ship, reaching every crew member. The silence that followed was not fear. It was focus. The enemy's overconfidence back in the Draxian flagship. Commander Threxen watched with amusement as the human ship stayed still. Pitiful, he said. They think holding their ground makes them brave. But all I see are targets. He raised his clawed hand. Signal the fleet. Prepare first volley. The Draxian warships began to power their plasma cannons. Red light shimmered across the battlefield like a growing storm of fire. Massive dreadnoughts positioned themselves in front, while smaller fighters swarmed behind. To them, this battle was already over. Humanity's end was only a matter of time. Inside the Valor enemy fleet charging weapons, Lieutenant Harris reported. Commander Holt frowned. They're preparing a full-scale volley. Ilara stood still, watching the red lights grow on the screen. Let them, Holt blinked. Captain? They want to destroy us in one strike, Ilara said softly. We'll show them that timing matters more than numbers. Ares' voice echoed again, calm as ever. Solar lance arrays at 100%. Fleet coordination locked. Awaiting your order, Captain. Alara looked around the bridge. Every crew member was watching her now, waiting for the signal. Not yet, she said quietly. Wait for their first move. The first shots, the Draxian flagship fired first. A blinding red beam shot across space, followed by thousands of plasma bolts from the rest of the fleet. The sky above Helion 3 turned crimson as the barrage raced toward the human formation. But the Ares AI had already predicted the attack before it began. Initiating defense pattern Theta 7, Ares announced. Instantly, every human ship shifted position in perfect sync. Massive battleships rotated to absorb the heaviest fire. Destroyers spread their shield fields, and smaller ships weaved between the beams like dancers moving through rain. The plasma storm struck, but instead of chaos, there was order. Human shields flared, sparks flew, but the formation held. Commander Holt stared in disbelief. We survived that? Alara nodded calmly. Now it's our turn. The human counter, she raised her hand. All ships, prepare to fire solar lances on my mark. Every captain across the fleet repeated her command. Inside the ships, weapons glowed bright blue. The energy hum built to a roar. The void of space filled with light. Mark, Alara said, and then a silence. The human fleet didn't fire immediately. Instead, Ares made micro-adjustments, aligning each ship by fractions of a degree. The enemy fleet, confused by the lack of return fire, began to move closer. Enemy ships advancing, Harris reported. Perfect, Alara said softly. They're walking right into range. Ares' voice echoed through the link. Trajectory locked. Power stable. Estimated destruction radius total. Alara took a deep breath. Fire. The light before destruction. For a brief moment, space itself seemed to glow white. Thousands of solar lances fired at once, beams of pure blue light crossing the void like lightning. The beams cut through Draxian shields as if they were made of paper. Massive warships split apart in silence. Carriers exploded into clouds of vapor. The first Draxian wave simply vanished. The shock wave illuminated the darkness of space, reflecting off Helion 3's atmosphere. It looked as if an entire sunrise had appeared in the middle of the stars. On the Valor's bridge, no one spoke. They just stared at the display, thousands of red dots blinking out one by one. Commander Holt exhaled slowly. That was half their fleet. Alara didn't smile. Half isn't enough. Prepare for second volley. The Draxians panic aboard the Dominion's fist, alarms blared. Draxian officers shouted in confusion. Threxon's glowing eyes widened as he saw the destruction spreading across his lines. What is this? He roared. How can their weapons cut through our armor? His second-in-command looked terrified. Their light, it burns through everything. We cannot calculate it. Threxon slammed his claw on the console. Regroup. Bring in the Titan-class ships. Crush them before they fire again. But deep down, even he felt it. The first spark of fear. The aftermath of the first strike on the human side. The fleet returned to silence. The battlefield was filled with glowing debris and drifting fragments of enemy ships. The Ares AI calmly listed destroyed targets. Confirmed kills 8,246, enemy command structure disrupted. Draxian formation collapsing. Alara stared at the numbers. 8,000 ships. Gone in seconds. Commander Holt turned to her. Captain, the galaxy just saw what we can do. Alara looked out the window at the fading light. Her face was calm, but her voice was filled with quiet strength. No, Commander. They saw what it means to be human. The silence after the first human attack felt almost unreal. Space was filled with drifting debris, glowing metal, and burning fragments of the once mighty Draxian fleet. Thousands of their ships were gone, vanished in seconds, erased by the blinding blue fire of humanity's solar lances. On the bridge of the TDS Valor, Captain Alara Voss stood quietly, staring at the holographic display. Red dots, once representing enemy ships, blinked out one by one until only a few remained. The vast enemy formation that had covered the stars was now scattered and broken. No one spoke. Even the sound of the ship's engines seemed distant, almost afraid to disturb the moment. Finally, Commander Raiden Holt broke the silence. Captain, he said softly, we did it. That's nearly half their fleet destroyed. Alara didn't smile. Her calm eyes remained fixed on the fading lights. Not yet, Commander. The Draxians won't stop here. This was only the first wave. The AI Ares spoke in its calm voice. Confirmed. Remaining Draxian forces reorganizing. Enemy transmissions indicate panic and loss of command structure. Ilara nodded slowly. They'll recover soon. Prepare for counterattack. The shock across the galaxy, the battle's data was already spreading across the galaxy. Distant colonies, trading stations, and listening posts received the same unbelievable message that humanity, the youngest spacefaring race, had destroyed one of the galaxy's strongest fleets in seconds. On neutral worlds, alien merchants froze mid-sentence as the report played across news screens. In the Union of Worlds Council, elder species who once mocked humans for being reckless newcomers now sat in uneasy silence. One alien ambassador whispered to another, "They turned 20,000 ships to dust. With light." Humanity had always been seen as curious and emotional, but never dangerous. That view was about to change forever. The enemy's desperation far away aboard the Draxian flagship Dominion's Fist, alarms blared and smoke filled the air. The great ship had survived the attack, but its outer hull was scorched, and several decks were gone. Supreme Commander Threxen gripped the control rail, his eyes glowing with fury. Around him, his officers shouted in panic. "Communications offline. Shields at 30%. Multiple squadrons requesting orders." Threxen slammed his clawed hand against the console. Silence. The room went quiet except for the hum of damaged systems. Threxen turned slowly toward the holographic screen showing the human formation. Thousands of tiny blue dots moved in perfect synchronization, forming new patterns every second. It was like watching a living machine made of light. "What are they?" He growled softly. "No fleet moves like that. No species fights like that." His second-in-command, General Vakra, trembled slightly. "Commander, our ships cannot calculate their formation patterns. Their weapons are beyond our spectrum readings. Should we call for reinforcements?" Threxen's expression hardened. "Reinforcements?" He looked out the viewport at the ruined battlefield. "If we retreat now, the Dominion will lose faith. The other empires will laugh at us. How as we finish this here?" He pointed toward Helion 3. "Deploy the Titan-class flagships. Bring out the giants." The calm before the counterattack back on the Valor, the human fleet was preparing for whatever came next. Engineers repaired minor damage while gunners recharged the solar lances. The crew moved with quiet focus, no celebration, no cheers. They knew the battle wasn't over. Commander Holt walked up beside Ilara. "The fleet's reporting minimal losses, Captain. Only 23 ships damaged, none destroyed." Ilara nodded. "Better than I hoped." She turned to the tactical map again. "Ares, predict enemy movements." "Enemy forces regrouping behind Helion's second moon," Ares replied. "Energy readings indicate deployment of heavy-class vessels. Estimated arrival 5 minutes." Holt frowned. "Heavy class? You mean the Titans?" Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Yes, the Draxians are desperate." She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "All ships, this is Captain Voss. The Draxians are bringing their Titan-class ships. Those are their largest war machines, like each the size of a city. They think they can scare us. They're wrong." Across the fleet, crews listened in silence. Some clenched their fists. Others smiled faintly. "Remember," Ilara continued, "we fight for every human world that depends on us, for every voice that said we would never reach the stars. Today we proved them wrong again." The message ended, and the silence that followed was filled with quiet strength. Arrival of the Titans. Moments later, the darkness of space shifted. From behind Helion's moon, massive shadows emerged, the Draxian Titan-class ships. Each one was nearly as large as the moon itself, covered in thick armor and glowing red energy lines. They carried cannons powerful enough to destroy planets. Lieutenant Harris stared at the display in disbelief. 3 Titans, Captain. They're charging main weapons." Ares spoke calmly. "Warning, energy readings exceed known plasma thresholds. Direct impact could destroy multiple human vessels." Commander Holt's eyes widened. "They're going to fire on the entire fleet." Ilara's tone stayed steady. "Then we move first." She turned toward Ares. "Initiate evasive grid pattern. All ships maintain link connection. Prepare solar lances for synchronized counterfire." The fleet began to move again, not in panic but with precision. Thousands of human ships shifted positions in perfect arcs, forming a complex web around the Valor. It looked chaotic to the untrained eye, but Ares calculated every move down to the second. The Titans fire, the first Titan opened fire. A massive beam of red plasma shot through the void. bright enough to light the nearby moon. The energy wave expanded outward, melting smaller asteroids and tearing through space. Incoming impact in 12 seconds, Ares announced. Defensive maneuver Delta, Ilara ordered. The fleet responded instantly. Battleships angled their shields. Smaller ships moved behind the larger ones, and the Valor's hull glowed with protective light. The plasma wave struck so, but instead of destroying them, the human shields redirected the energy outward. The void lit up like a mirror reflecting fire. Shields at 70%, Holt reported. Hold steady, Ilara said. We've survived worse. 2 more Titans fired. The attack shook space itself, but the human fleet endured. Then Ilara gave the command that would change everything. Return fire, she said. The second strike, thousands of solar lances ignited once more. The beams crossed each other in perfect harmony, converging toward the center of the Draxian line. The Ares AI spoke. Firing pattern locked. Targeting Titan fleet. The human formation shifted, every ship aligning in a rotating sphere. Then the beams fired again. Brighter, sharper, faster. The first Titan's shields cracked like glass. The second's armor began to melt, glowing white from the inside. The third Titan tried to dodge, but the beams followed. Guided by Ares' perfect calculations, in seconds, the sky turned into a sea of blue light. The fall of the Titans inside the Dominion's fist. Threxen could only watch as his massive warships broke apart. One Titan exploded in a silent burst, scattering molten fragments across the battlefield. Another's power core overloaded, tearing it apart from within. The third Titan drifted helplessly, its weapons dead, its engines gone. Impossible, Threxen whispered. No one can destroy a Titan. But the proof was before him. 3 of the greatest ships in Draxian history, erased by human firepower. The human triumphed back on the Valor. The crew erupted into cheers. For the first time in the battle, the humans allowed themselves a moment of celebration. Commander Holt smiled wide. The Titans are down. We actually did it. Ilara remained calm, though her eyes glowed with quiet pride. Don't relax yet. There are still ships out there. But yes, we've shown them what happens when humanity stands together. Ares interrupted. Enemy transmissions decreasing. Draxian fleet in full retreat. Command ship remains stationary. Ilara looked at the remaining red dot, the Dominion's fist. They won't run. Threxen's too proud, Holt asked. What do we do about him? Ilara answered softly. We finish this. The message of the battle as the fleet prepared to advance. Ares transmitted the full battle data to Earth Command. Across human space, the story spread faster than light. The Battle of Helion 3. In cities, people stopped to watch the holoscreens. Children pointed at the glowing images of the fleet, eyes wide with wonder. The phrase began to echo across colonies. In seconds, humanity's fleet turned the battlefield into ash. Ilara didn't care about fame. She only looked out at the dark horizon where the last enemy ship waited, preparing for the end. Bring us closer, she said. The Valor moved forward, engines burning bright. Around it, the rest of the fleet followed like a wave of light. The once endless Draxian armada had become only fragments and shadows. Commander Holt glanced at her. Captain, do you think they'll ever attack us again? Ilara shook her head slowly. Not after today, but others will. And when they do, they'll remember what happened here. She looked out at the stars, silent witnesses of humanity's rise. This is not just a victory, she said softly. It's a warning. The bridge grew quiet again. Outside, the debris of 2 empires floated in the cold dark, one ancient and proud, the other new and unstoppable. And at the center of it all stood the Valor, shining like the heart of a newborn sun. Space seemed almost peaceful again. The first wave of the Draxian fleet had been obliterated. 3 of their Titan-class flagships had been destroyed. Thousands of ships were already drifting as debris across the void. Yet for Captain Ilara Voss aboard the TDS Valor, there was no relief. The battle was far from over. Status report, she commanded. Lieutenant Harris checked the holographic display. Remaining Draxian forces, 5,000. Command ship Dominion's Fist still operational. Scattered squadrons trying to regroup. Commander Raiden Holt added, some smaller carriers are moving toward the inner asteroid field near Helion's second moon. Could be a trap. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Then we proceed carefully. We finish this, but not recklessly. Ares prepare fleet-wide defenses. Every ship shields at maximum. We're not letting them strike back, the Ares AI's calm voice responded. Fleet synchronized. Defensive grids activated. Energy shields stable across all vessels. Even as the AI spoke, space around Helion 3 began to shift. From the shadowed side of the planet's moon, small clusters of enemy ships emerged. Draxians had not surrendered. They were regrouping, planning a counterattack. The calm before the storm on the Valor, the bridge was tense but focused. Engineers repaired minor hull damage. Gunners recharged weapons. Across the fleet, human crews moved with precision. Every action directed by Ares' perfect calculations. Ensign Marin, one of the youngest officers on the bridge, whispered to a fellow crew member, "Do you think we can survive another strike?" The other officer, Lyra, smiled faintly. "We're humans. We survive. That's what we do." Ilara overheard and nodded slightly. "It's not luck," she said. "It's unity. Remember that." Even as the human fleet prepared, the Draxians were closing in. Their remaining cruisers and battleships moved with aggression, hiding behind asteroids and debris from the first strike. It was clear. The Dominion would not give up easily. The Draxian counterattack begins without warning. The enemy launched their first salvo. From behind the moon's shadow, plasma beams and energy missiles streaked toward the human fleet. The dark red beams cut through space like burning knives. "Incoming fire!" Harris shouted. Ilara remained calm. "Hold formation. Evasive grid Delta 7. All ships link active. Focus shields on outer perimeter." The fleet shifted instantly. Large battleships rotated to absorb the heaviest attacks. Smaller ships darted between them, weaving in perfect synchronization. The Draxian weapons struck, but the damage was minor. Only a few hulls were scorched. No ship was lost, Ares spoke across the fleet link. Incoming trajectories predicted. Countermeasures deployed. All ships stable. Ilara studied the remaining enemy formations. "They're testing us. They want to see our weakness," Commander Holt frowned. "And if they find it?" Ilara's expression was firm. "Then we show them there is none." Ares evolves. Ares had been observing the battle closely. It had learned from the Draxian attack patterns, analyzing energy signatures, weapon types, and fleet movements in real time. Slowly, it began to adapt, creating new strategies as the battle continued. "Captain," Ares spoke, "I am synchronizing fleet mind link channels. Human captains will now operate with shared tactical awareness. Reaction time will improve by 72%. Ilara's eyes lit with approval. "Good, make the fleet act as one. Not as individuals, but as a single organism." Across the fleet, every captain suddenly felt a subtle shift. They could sense the intentions of nearby ships. They didn't have to speak. They didn't have to see. They just knew where each ship would move, when to fire and how to defend. Even the smallest frigates and scouts moved like living extensions of the human fleet. The enemy struggles, the Draxians noticed immediately. Their communications were filled with panic. "Commander, they're connected," shouted one officer. "Every ship is moving as one." Threxen growled in frustration. "Impossible. This is human chaos. No coordination. They are predicting our every move." His Titan-class survivors tried to adjust, changing course, launching missiles, and firing concentrated beams. Yet every attack was anticipated. The human fleet moved with grace and precision, dodging, countering, and striking back at the perfect moment. The Draxians had underestimated humans' ability to learn and adapt, and now it was costing them dearly. The turning point. Ilara waited for the right moment. Her plan was simple. Draw the remaining Draxian ships into a position where the human fleet could surround them completely. "Ares, deploy Sigma 1 formation," she commanded. Across the fleet, ships shifted instantly. The formation looked like a glowing sphere of blue light expanding slowly toward the enemy. Draxian cruisers, thinking they had an advantage, moved closer, unaware they were entering a trap. "Enemy falling into formation pattern," Harris reported. Ilara's voice was steady. "Good, let them come. All ships, hold fire until my order." The Draxian ships, confident after surviving the first human strike, pressed forward. They did not notice the human web forming around them, silently surrounding their every movement. The web closes inside the Valor. Ilara watched every detail. The Draxians were trapped in a sphere of light and precision. Small scouts circled them, Larger battleships cut off escape routes and energy shields formed layers around the perimeter. "Captain," Holt said, "they're trying to break through the outer layer." "Let them," she replied. "It's exactly where we want them." Ares analyzed every angle, every path. It synchronized human captains' minds like a single intelligence, allowing them to anticipate every enemy move before it happened. "Prediction complete," Ares announced. "Enemy fleet cannot escape without significant losses." "Ready to fire on your mark," Alara nodded. "All ships, wait for my signal." The human counterattack begins. The first Draxian ship fired a desperate beam. Instantly, every human shield flared, deflecting the attack. Engineers on smaller ships adjusted shield frequencies on the fly, guided by Ari's precise calculations. Alara's hand rose. "Mark," the fleet fired as one. Thousands of solar lances ignited, beams of blue fire converging toward the trapped enemy. The Draxians had no chance. Their shields cracked instantly. Their hulls melted. Explosions of molten energy lit up space as their remaining ships were reduced to drifting fragments. Even the Dominion's Fist, their command ship, could not escape. Its energy shields failed under the synchronized attack. For the first time in the Dominion's history, their command vessel was on the verge of destruction. The collapse within seconds, the Draxian counterattack had failed. The remaining ships scattered in panic, retreating toward distant sectors. The Titans were gone. Most of their fleet had been destroyed. Inside the human fleet, the crew felt a mixture of relief and awe. No one had expected such a perfect victory. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and turned the battlefield into a trap that even the oldest and most advanced enemy fleet could not escape. Holt turned to Alara. "Captain, we did it. We actually did it." Ilara's expression remained calm, though a spark of pride shone in her eyes. "This is only the beginning, Commander. There will be more battles. But today, humanity showed its strength." The aftermath as the fleet regrouped, Ares transmitted a report to Earth Command. The full battle details on the destruction, the coordination, the survival, were sent across human space. Citizens watched in amazement as images of the battle appeared on holoscreens. On neutral planets and distant colonies, whispers of humans' power spread. Even the Union of Worlds began to take notice. Humanity was no longer just a curious new race. They were unstoppable. Ilara walked across the Valor's bridge, looking at her crew. Each face reflected exhaustion, relief, and pride. She nodded toward them. "We've won this battle, but the war is far from over. Today we taught the Draxians that humanity cannot be underestimated." Harris looked out at the remains of the battlefield. "Captain, they'll remember this." Ilara smiled faintly. "Yes, and they'll remember us." The message of unity as the fleet prepared to return to safer orbit. The bridge grew quiet. Every crew member felt a sense of connection, to the fleet, to their world, and to humanity as a whole. Ares' voice filled the silence. Humanity's fleet achieved victory through coordination, precision, and resilience. Estimated enemy losses 4,876 ships. Remaining enemy vessels 124, retreating. Ilara looked out at the scattered remains of the Draxian fleet, the glowing fragments drifting silently in space. "This is what humans do," she said softly. "We fight together. We survive. We rise." And as the Valor and its fleet moved toward Helion 3's orbit, the stars seemed brighter, as if acknowledging humanity's triumph. For now, the battlefield was theirs, and humanity had proven, and once again, that even in the darkest moments humans never give up. The void of space was quiet again, but it was no longer empty. Fragments of Draxian ships drifted like glowing embers, a reminder of the destruction humanity had brought upon its enemy. The Terran defense fleet hovered in precise formation around Helion 3, engines humming softly, shields flaring faintly as Ares continued to monitor the area. Captain Ilara Voss stood at the front of the TDS Valor bridge, staring at the scattered enemy remnants. Her crew moved with calm efficiency, repairing minor damage, recharging weapons, and checking shields. Every officer on the bridge knew this was the moment that would be remembered across the galaxy. Humanity had faced overwhelming odds and had survived. More than survived, and they had dominated. Commander Raiden Holt approached, his expression a mixture of pride and disbelief. "Captain, we've done it." "They've lost almost everything." Ilara didn't immediately answer. Her eyes followed the drifting wreckage. the glowing blue-white remnants of ships that had been Titans only moments before. Slowly she spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "Not everything, Commander. The command ship remains. Threxen is still alive. The Draxians will regroup, but we have shown them that humanity is unstoppable." Ares' calm voice broke the silence. "Remaining enemy vessels 124. Command ship Dominion's Fist. Estimated capability for coordinated attack, low. Probability of retreat 98%. Ilara nodded. "Then we give them the last chance to retreat. If they resist, we finish this." The final advance, the Valor and its fleet moved forward, forming a perfect crescent around the remaining enemy vessels. Even the smallest human ships had found their place in the formation, their shields overlapping in layers, their weapons ready to fire. The blue glow of the fleet made them look like a living organism, a single entity, a single will. Holt glanced at the tactical display. "Captain, they're trying to break formation. They're making one last push." Ilara's voice was calm and commanding. "Let them. They are predictable now. Every move they make has already been calculated." Ares confirmed. "Fleet mind link synchronization complete. All captains responding in unified action. Enemy escape routes calculated. Probability of success for remaining Draxians, near zero." Outside the Valor, the last enemy cruisers and frigates attempted to flee, weaving through the debris, their red engines bright against the black void. But the human fleet had formed a cage, closing in from all directions. Every ship was tracked, every movement anticipated. Escape was impossible. The final engagement, Ilara raised her hand. "All ships and prepare solar lances. Target the command ship. Fire only on my mark." Across the fleet, weapon systems powered up. The hum of energy filled the void like a rising storm. Every beam of blue light was ready to converge at a single point, the heart of the Draxian command structure. Holt spoke, his voice tense with excitement. "This will end it. Are we ready, Captain?" Ilara's gaze was steady. "We've been ready since we arrived. All we need is precision and courage. Humans have both." The Draxian command ship, the Dominion's Fist, fired its weapons desperately. Massive plasma beams tore through the void, but the human fleet moved in perfect harmony. Shields flared, smaller ships dodged with agility impossible for their size, and Ares recalculated every split-second trajectory. Holt watched in awe. "Captain, they can't hit us." Ilara's eyes sparkled. "No, not today." The moment of triumph. Then Ilara gave the command. "Fire!" The solar lances ignited across the fleet. Thousands of beams, brighter than a sun, converged on the Dominion's Fist. Its shields flared, straining against the impossible energy. But they could not hold. In seconds, the command ship began to disintegrate. Energy flares rippled across its hull. Sections of metal vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but fragments drifting into the void. The great vessel, the pride of the Draxian Dominion, was gone. Across the human fleet, the crew cheered. Engineers high-fived each other. Gunners laughed in disbelief. Even the youngest pilots on the smallest frigates felt the thrill of victory. Holt turned to Ilara. "Captain, it's done. They're all gone." Ilara remained calm, but a smile touched her lips. "Yes, Commander. The battlefield is ours." The aftermath of battlespace around Helion 3 was filled with floating debris, scattered and glowing from the fire of the solar lances. Fragments of Draxian ships drifted silently, some pieces spinning slowly, some glowing as their power cores decayed. Ares reported in. Enemy fleet neutralized. Probability of further attack 0. Sector secured. Ilara allowed herself to finally relax. She walked across the Valor's bridge, looking at every member of her crew. Each one had played a part. The pilots, engineers, gunners, officers. Every human had contributed to this perfect victory. "Today humanity has not only defended Helion 3, she said softly. "We have shown the galaxy that we will never back down. No matter the odds, no matter the enemy, we fight, we endure, we rise." The crew nodded, pride shining in their eyes. The young officers whispered to each other, "I want to remember this day forever." A warning sent across the stars even, as they repaired minor damage and recharged weapons. Ilara knew that word of this battle would spread faster than light. Across human colonies, across neutral worlds, even in the halls of the Union of Worlds, everyone would learn what had happened. The phrase began to echo everywhere. In seconds, Humanity's fleet turned the battlefield into ash. It was not just a report of destruction. It was a message, a warning, and a promise. Humans were no longer newcomers to the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with, united by courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive. Reflections in the void later. As the fleet settled into orbit around Helion 3, Captain Alara Voss stood alone on the Valor's observation deck. The stars were bright, reflected in her eyes. The debris of the Draxians glimmered faintly below, drifting like remnants of a nightmare now past. Commander Holt joined her silently. "Captain, do you ever wonder how far we can go?" Alara looked out at the galaxy. "Everywhere, Commander. Humanity is only beginning to realize its strength. Today we fought an empire. Tomorrow, who knows? We are humans. We don't stop. We never give up," Holt nodded. "And every world will know it." Ilara's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "Yes, they will know, and they will remember." Unity as strength across the fleet, the human crews began to share stories of the battle, celebrating the courage and skill of every member. Even the youngest soldiers realized that this was more than a victory of firepower. It was a victory of unity. Ares' voice spoke across the fleet, calm as ever. "Fleet performance exemplary. Coordination unprecedented. Humanity's resolve unmatched." The human ships glowed faintly in the dark of space, each one a part of something greater. The Terran Defense Fleet was more than metal and energy. It was a symbol of what humans could achieve together, even when outnumbered, even when facing a seemingly unstoppable enemy. Alara smiled, feeling the quiet hum of the fleet beneath her feet. "Let this be a reminder," she said softly, "that when humanity stands together, nothing can stop us." A new dawn as Helion 3 turned slowly below them. Bathed in the light of its distant sun, humanity's fleet began to regroup for the return to their home colonies. The battle was over. The Draxians were defeated, but more importantly, the galaxy had witnessed the birth of a new legend, the legend of humanity's courage, unity, and indomitable will. Across human space, messages of congratulations, awe, and hope began to pour in. Children gazed at the stars and imagined themselves as part of that fleet. Colonists cheered as news reached their planets. Every human being understood that for the first time in galactic history, humanity had proven itself to be a force unlike any other. Alara turned to Holt, her voice steady but filled with quiet pride. "This is only the beginning. Other battles will come. Other enemies will challenge us. But humanity will endure." Holt nodded, watching the stars drift past. "Yes, Captain, and they will remember this day forever." Alara looked out one last time at the glowing battlefield. The remains of the Draxian fleet were floating silently in space, a testament to human strength. "In seconds," she whispered, "we turned the battlefield into ash, and the galaxy will never forget it." Above them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter,